A burst of blinding blue light tore through the night and slammed straight into Sergeant Cole's chest. The impact hit like a meteor, launching him off his feet. 80 pounds of armor and gear clattered as his body crashed into the concrete wall behind him. For a heartbeat, everything vanished. Sound, pain, even gravity. Then the world returned all at once. A deep, heavy pressure spread across his ribs. It wasn't pain, not yet, just a crushing weight, as if someone had placed a star on his chest. His armor hissed with smoke, the front plate blackened and cracked, molten edges glowing faintly in the dark. Cole's eyes blinked open. The world came back as shapes through haze, broken walls, shattered glass, tracer fire cutting across the air. Somewhere, someone shouted his name. Cole. Sergeant Cole, get up. He coughed, tasting metal and ash. His hand went to his chest. The ceramic plate was half melted, still radiating heat. His trauma dampener, a black market neural implant hidden deep under his spine, had kicked in, muting the pain and flooding his body with stabilizers. The thing was illegal, the kind of mod command would pull you apart for having. But right now, it was the only reason he was still breathing. He pushed himself up, one knee at a time. His body trembled under the weight of smoke and dust. The battlefield around him had gone strangely quiet. The alien soldiers, tall, sinewy creatures made of pale ligaments and shining armor, had frozen mid-step. Their insect-like heads tilted slightly, staring. One of their hovering drones drifted closer, a silver sphere with a single black eye that rippled with shifting lenses. It recorded everything. Cole knew it. He stared right back. Good, he thought grimly. Let them see. Let them remember. He got to his feet. The motion was slow but deliberate. His chest plate was a ruin, his armor still steaming, yet he stood. The aliens didn't move. Their ranks hesitated, something they never did. Even machines feared what they couldn't understand. Across the shattered street, Private Harlan, barely 20 and trembling behind a scorched barricade, stared at him like he was seeing a ghost. The kid's rifle hung forgotten in his hands. Cole reached for the pouches on his belt, empty. His ammo was gone. His weapons were dead. But he didn't care. He looked up, met Harlan's wide eyes, and rasped through a throat full of dust. Got a smoke. For a second, there was silence. Then, somewhere in the rubble, a human laugh cracked through the tension, wild, unbelieving. The aliens hesitated, uncertain. Miles away, deep beneath the surface of the alien command ship, Overseer Kale watched the battle feed. His body was an unsettling sculpture of dark armor and glistening muscle fibers, veins glowing faintly under his translucent plates. Rows of alien script danced across his display as he analyzed the data from the drone. By every calculation, the human should have been dead. The plasma bolt's energy output was nominal, the armor rating standard. Kale ran the simulation twice. The result was the same, total lethality. But the feed told another story. The target was alive, standing, moving. His second in command, a smaller being named Nirax, clicked in confusion. The human should be destroyed. Kale tilted his long head. He should, he said softly. But he is not. An anomaly. He zoomed in on the human's burned armor, on the faint trail of smoke curling from his lips as the soldier lit a cigarette from the battlefield's flames. The translator rendered the human's words into the alien tongue. Got a smoke. Kale's cold mind processed the phrase, weighing it, dissecting it, and for the first time in many cycles, he felt something that might have been curiosity. Back on the ground, the fight had paused. Cole stood in the center of the street, surrounded by dust and silence. The faint orange glow of his cigarette was the only color in the gray ruin. He exhaled slowly, smoke curling through the shattered light. His hand trembled, but he held his head high. The aliens retreated a few steps, their formation broken. Harlan watched in awe as the creatures fell back, whispering to each other in static clicks. Cole didn't smile. He didn't move. He simply stood, a burned man holding a cigarette in the middle of hell, and somehow, that was enough. Far above the battlefield, Kale turned away from the screen, his glowing eyes narrowing. A human who takes the heat of a star and asks for fire, he murmured. Fascinating. And somewhere deep in his cold, alien heart, the overseer decided he wanted to know what it would take to make the man finally fall. The med bay smelled of blood, smoke, and disinfectant, the kind of smell that clung to memory long after battle. Lieutenant Mara Jean knelt beside Sergeant Cole, her gloved hands cutting through the melted remains of his armor. The front of his chest plate had fused to his uniform. Pulling it away peeled the fabric in burning threads. She didn't flinch, but her jaw tightened. Underneath, his chest was a battlefield of its own. Blackened flesh, cracked like dry earth, shimmered faintly with residual heat. The skin pulsed faintly with each heartbeat, a miracle in itself. "You should be dead," she said flatly. Cole took a slow drag from the cigarette dangling at the corner of his mouth. The glow lit the deep shadows beneath his eyes. "Guess I missed the memo," he muttered. Smoke drifted upward, curling through the sterile light. Mara's scanner beeped rapidly. The screen painted his injuries in red warnings: severe tissue damage, internal bleeding minimal, neural response flatline, no pain signals, none at all. She frowned. "Cole, what did you install in your spine?" "Nothing you need to report," he said, eyes half-lidded. "Don't play games with me." Her voice was sharper now. "You're walking around with a dampener rig that's frying your nervous system. You feel nothing, right? Not even this." She pressed a probe lightly against the scorched skin near his ribs. Cole's body didn't twitch. He simply exhaled another trail of smoke. "Feels like someone leaning on me. Pressure, not pain." Mara stared at the scanner again. A perfect green line where agony should have spiked into red. The illegal implant had blocked every pain receptor. "You're sitting on a bomb, Sergeant. You could bleed out, and your body wouldn't even warn you." He looked away, eyes tracing the cracks on the med-bay ceiling. "Pain slows you down. This thing keeps me standing. It'll also get you killed," she snapped. "You think you're invincible, but one day you'll just fade." No screaming, no warning, no chance. He didn't answer. Instead, he reached out, plucked the cigarette from his lips, and ground it out against the metal floor. Maybe, but it scared them. His voice was quiet, steady. "Those alien bastards pulled back. You saw it. That fear, that's worth something." Mara froze. She remembered it clearly, the enemy retreating, their ranks breaking after watching him rise. Something primal in their minds had flinched. Humans weren't supposed to do that. She sighed, sealing a canister of biofoam and pressing it against his wound. The foam hissed as it spread, cooling the damaged tissue. "You shouldn't be proud of being a walking corpse." "I'm proud of staying upright," he said softly. "That's enough." Far above the burning city, Overseer Kale replayed the footage again and again. The drone's optical feed displayed the human's smoldering armor, the faint glow of a cigarette tip in the chaos. Kale magnified the image, tracking the smoke trail curling upward. "How does he endure?" Nirax asked, his mandibles clicking nervously. Kale's deep voice vibrated through the command chamber. "He does not endure. He defies." He ran calculations. Plasma impact, lethal. Armor dispersion, insufficient. Biological systems, catastrophic failure expected. But the human had not died. His neural readings, transmitted faintly through battlefield interference, revealed something strange, a silence where pain should exist. A human without pain? Impossible. Pain was the tether that bound life to flesh. Kale leaned forward, his elongated head shimmering with internal heat. "If he cannot feel pain," he murmured, "then he does not fear it. If he does not fear it, he is dangerous." Nirax shifted uneasily. A mutation, perhaps? A malfunction? Or evolution? Kale's eyes glowed like cold stars as he issued a new order. "Gather every byte of data from that battlefield. I want his vitals, his voice, his movements. I want to understand how the creature breaks the equation." Back on the ground, the alien guns had gone silent. The human platoon was regathering, patching wounds and whispering rumors. Some swore they saw the plasma melt through Cole's chest and out his back. Others said he caught it, somehow, absorbed it. None knew the truth. Cole sat outside the bunker, his back to a cracked wall, the night wind moving through the ruins. His chest throbbed beneath the foam patch, but the dampener dulled it to nothing more than weight. He lit another cigarette. Private Harlan hesitated nearby, eyes wide. "Sir, what did that thing hit you with?" Cole took a drag, exhaled slowly. "A lesson," he said. Harlan frowned. "A lesson? That fear only works if you feel it." The kid didn't answer. He just stared, uncertain if his sergeant was a man or a myth. Overhead, the stars burned cold. The war had paused for one night, not because humanity had won, but because the enemy had seen something they couldn't explain. And somewhere, in the dark, between worlds, Overseer Kale watched the feed of a burned human lighting a cigarette and whispered a single word that would soon echo through his entire species. Study him. The story spread like wildfire across every human channel. One clip, a single image of a man standing up from a plasma strike, smoke drifting from his armor, went viral across the Terran networks. Soldiers replayed it between missions. Civilians turned it into a symbol. The caption read, "He took the hit," then asked for a smoke. They called him Iron Lung Cole. No one remembered who started it, but the name stuck like a scar. In the forward command tent, Cole sat quietly, his chest bandaged, the air thick with the hum of power cells and the low murmur of tactical chatter. Outside, distant artillery rumbled like faraway thunder. Lieutenant Mara stood across from him, arms folded. Her eyes said more than her words ever could. "You've become a legend," she said. He grunted. "Legends bleed just like anyone else." Before she could answer, the tent flap opened. Captain Drace stepped in, followed by a man in a pristine black uniform, an intelligence officer. His uniform was so crisp it looked like it had been printed, not sewn. His expression didn't match the grime and chaos of the front. He smiled like someone who'd never seen a battlefield. "Sergeant Cole," the officer began, voice smooth as glass. "You've made quite the impact." Cole didn't stand. "If this is about the fight, you can send your report up the line. I've already filled it out." "Oh, this isn't about reports." The man sat across from him, uninvited. "It's about what comes next." He tapped a datapad. "Public morale across the colonies rose by 11% after your footage went public. Recruitment is up. Even bond sales improved. You've become the face of this war." Cole frowned. "You turned a plasma wound into a poster." "We turned it into hope," the officer corrected, smile never wavering. "People need symbols. And the enemy? They need to fear those symbols." He slid a metal case across the table. Cole opened it. Inside were dozens of slim gray boxes of field cigarettes, each stamped with the Terran Eagle. "From command," the man said. "A gift for our favorite survivor." Mara's eyes narrowed. "He's not your tool." The officer ignored her. "Sergeant, your new mission profile is simple. You'll continue patrols near the front, high-visibility operations. Let them see you. Let the enemy know the man who stands after the impossible is still walking." Cole leaned forward, his voice calm but cold. "You want me to be bait? We want you to be a legend," the man replied smoothly. "Let them shoot at the myth. Every shot they take at you is one less aimed at someone else." Silence hung between them. The tent fabric fluttered with the wind. Somewhere, a generator coughed and steadied again. Cole looked down at the cigarette in his hand, then back up at the officer. "Do I get hazard pay for being your scarecrow?" The officer's smile didn't change. "You get history, Sergeant." When they left, Mara threw the datapad across the tent. It clattered against a crate. "They're going to use you until you break," she said. Cole lit another cigarette. "Then I'll make sure I break in the right direction." On the alien flagship, Overseer Kale watched the same footage being transmitted across intercepted human networks. His command room pulsed with data, screens filled with human faces, text, propaganda streams. Every feed contained that same image, the human rising from the plasma blast. Kale's claws flexed slowly. "They glorify pain," he said, almost to himself. "They wear suffering as armor." Nirax shifted beside him. "They distort weakness into strength. They are illogical." Kale turned his head slightly, the faint light in his cranial vents flickering. "Perhaps logic is their weakness. Or perhaps it is ours." He replayed the footage one last time, watching the cigarette flare to life. The thermal readings showed a body still technically dying, organ failure, cellular collapse. And yet, the human's hand was steady. The mind refused to accept what the body already knew. Kale leaned back in his chair. "Prepare an observation mission. I want to see if this Cole is truly what they say, or if he's just another myth waiting to burn." That night, Cole sat outside the barracks, cigarette ember glowing like a tiny star in the dark. Around him, soldiers laughed softly, shared stories, and glanced his way with that mix of awe and disbelief. He didn't correct them. He didn't tell them the truth, that the pain dampener in his spine was glitching, that his heart sometimes skipped beats it shouldn't, that every breath now came with a faint mechanical echo. Instead, he looked toward the distant horizon, where the alien lines shimmered under twin moons, and muttered under his breath, "Let them keep watching." Because deep down, he knew something simple and the story. Brutal. The only thing more dangerous than a man who doesn't feel pain is one who's already made peace with it. Dawn broke in a bruised sky, a pale orange bleeding into gray smoke. The ruins of the old city shimmered under heat haze as Cole's patrol moved through the skeletal remains of towers long turned to dust. The sound of crunching boots and the faint buzz of static were the only reminders that life still moved here. His new mission orders were simple: stay visible. He hated the phrasing. Behind him, Harlan scanned the rooftops, nerves obvious in his voice. "Feels wrong, Sergeant." "Too quiet." Cole raised his hand, signaling for silence. The air itself seemed to hold its breath. Even the wind had stopped. The hollow shell of a comms tower loomed ahead, half collapsed and casting a long, jagged shadow over the street. Then a sound. A high-pitched crack that cut through the stillness like lightning. A bullet screamed past Cole's ear, shattering the wall beside him into a spray of dust and stone. "Sniper!" Harlan yelled. The squad dove for cover. All except Cole. He didn't move. Didn't flinch. He stood there in the middle of the road, weapon lowered, the faint breeze tugging at his scorched armor. His calm was unnatural, eerie. He could almost feel the alien eye on him, watching, studying. He turned slightly, his gaze sweeping the shattered horizon. "They're not trying to kill us," he murmured. "They're testing something." "Testing what?" Mara's voice came through the comms, tense. "Me." On the alien flagship HFY, Overseer Kale stood before a vast holographic display, observing every flicker of the human's vitals. His elongated fingers danced across the console. "Deploy the observation drone closer. I want to see his pulse." The drone's lens zoomed in on Cole, standing unflinching amid the rubble. Kale's assistant, Nirax, turned his head slightly. "Sniper team in position. Hypervelocity, slug loaded. Shall we fire again?" Kale's voice dropped into a near whisper. "Wait." He watched the human reach into a pouch, pull out a small rectangular object, and flick it open with practiced ease. A spark. A flame. Kale tilted his head. "What is that?" "A combustion device," Nirax said. "Primitive ignition tool." The human raised it, lit a cigarette, and exhaled slowly, a gray trail twisting into the morning air. Kale watched, fascinated. "He challenges the universe to break him," he murmured. "Remarkable." He waited 10 more seconds. Then, fire. The next shot tore through the street, blowing apart a chunk of concrete at Cole's feet. The human didn't flinch. He simply took another drag and turned his back to the sniper's position, like a man ignoring rain. Back on the ground, Harlan's voice was frantic through the comms. "Sergeant, move. You'll get your head blown off." Cole didn't respond. He let the smoke roll out from his mouth, slow and deliberate, watching the ripples of it catch the light. Then, almost casually, he raised his hand and made a signal, 2 short bursts of smoke, followed by one long exhale. Across the city ruins, almost a kilometer away, another squad leader saw it through his binoculars. 2 short, 1 long. A field code. Advance left flank. Within minutes, Bravo Company was moving. As Cole stood his ground, drawing all attention, the other squad swept around the ridge undetected. The alien sniper hesitated. The human's heartbeat hadn't spiked once. No panic, no fear response. It was as if he were a statue pretending to breathe. His readings remained stable, Nirax reported. Kale narrowed his eyes. "Then he is more dangerous than we thought. He is not fearless. He is deliberate." 15 minutes later, the sound of distant explosions thundered through the valley. The alien outpost collapsed under the combined strike of Bravo and Cole's squad. The sniper's feed went dark as a shockwave rolled across the ridge. In the aftermath, Cole crouched by a broken wall, reloading his weapon. Mara approached, her face pale beneath streaks of ash. "You knew they were watching," she said. He nodded. "I wanted them to." She looked at him for a long moment. "You're playing their game, Cole. And one day, they're going to stop watching and start learning." He gave a faint, tired smile. "Then I'll have to teach them something they won't forget." On board HFY, Kale stood before the darkened display, watching static flicker across the last transmission. He folded his clawed hands behind his back. "Send a new directive," he said quietly. "Prepare an adaptive strategy." This human's calm, This illusion of invincibility cannot continue untested. Nirax clicked nervously. What do we test next? Cale turned, his elongated face expressionless. Pain. Real pain. I want to see if the myth bleeds when no one's watching. Back in the ruins, Cole's squad moved to regroup. The sun had dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows that seemed to follow them. Cole stopped at the edge of the street, cigarette ember glowing faintly. He looked up at the sky, where invisible drones still orbited, unseen eyes fixed on him. Still watching, he muttered. Good. He flicked the cigarette away, its spark fading into the dust. Because I'm not done yet. The night had turned cold, a thin fog curling between the ruins. The battlefield was silent now, no plasma fire, no distant screams, just the hollow hum of wind through shattered steel. Cole sat on a rusted transport crate in the med bay, cleaning his rifle for the third time that day. The weapon gleamed in the dim yellow light, its metal edges catching the flicker of a broken lamp. Take off your boot. Lieutenant Mara's voice sliced through the quiet. She stood near the doorway, hands on her hips, her expression a mixture of exhaustion and fury. Cole didn't look up. I'm fine. That wasn't a request. He sighed and set the rifle aside. Slowly, he unlaced his left boot, then peeled off the thick, sweat-soaked sock. The smell of burned fabric and blood filled the air. The sight underneath made Mara's stomach tighten. The flesh around his calf was raw, angry purple, and swollen. Jagged bits of black metal were lodged deep beneath the skin. How long? She asked sharply. He shrugged. Since the mag station raid. Thought it was just bruised. Bruised. She knelt and examined the wound, her gloved hands gentle but firm. This is infected, Cole. The shrapnel went straight through the armor and into the muscle. She reached for a sterilizer, the faint whine of the device filling the silence. You could have lost the leg. Cole didn't react. Wouldn't have felt it anyway. That was what broke her composure. Mara slammed the sterilizer onto the table, her voice rising. That's not something to be proud of. He blinked, expression unreadable. It keeps me in the fight. She grabbed a small injector, her movements sharp. You call this fighting? You're rotting from the inside and don't even care. I care about getting the job done. Her voice softened, but her eyes burned. No. You care about being the symbol they want you to be. The man who doesn't fall. The story that makes everyone else feel brave. She pressed the injector against his skin. But stories can't bleed. People can. The hiss of the antibiotic filled the air. Cole stared at the wall, jaw clenched. This story keeps soldiers alive, Mara. Bravo Company made it home because the aliens were too busy aiming at me. That's worth the price. She met his gaze, her own voice trembling now. And when that price is your life, when the myth finally kills the man behind it, what then? He didn't answer. The silence between them said everything. Light years away, Overseer Cale stood in the observation chamber of his command ship. His body cast a long shadow across the glowing display. Dozens of holographic images of Cole hovered around him. His movements, his biometrics, the faint flicker of his human heart. Cale gestured to one screen showing the human's damaged leg. He continues despite degradation, he observed. His tissues decay, yet his function remains stable. Nirax made a series of uneasy clicks. His pain system is compromised. It should limit his mobility. It does not. Cale tilted his head. You see malfunction. I see adaptation. Adaptation. Pain guides the body. But remove pain. He paused, eyes narrowing. And you remove fear. You create something new, something unpredictable. He turned to face the glowing image of Cole lighting another cigarette, the soft orange flame illuminating his scarred face. But even fire burns itself out eventually, Cale murmured. And when he does, I will be there to record the moment the myth dies. Hours later, the med bay was quiet again. Mara finished wrapping the fresh synth-skin dressing around Cole's leg. There, she said finally, voice low. It'll hold for now. But another day like this, and it won't. Cole flexed the leg, testing it. The pain dampener did its job. Nothing. Just pressure. Just wait. He looked at her. You should get some rest. You first, she replied. A faint smirk crossed his face. You know I can't sleep when things are quiet. She exhaled, turning to pack her medkit. One of these days, silence won't be the enemy, Cole. He didn't respond. He just watched the flicker of the lamp, the shadows dancing across the walls. His mind drifted to the battlefield, to the alien eyes still watching somewhere beyond the stars. He knew the Overseer wasn't finished. He could feel it. The legend had become bait, and bait always drew predators. Mara paused at the doorway, her tone softening. You're not a machine, Cole. Don't forget that. When she left, he lit another cigarette. The glow reflected off the silver of his rifle. Machines don't smoke, he muttered to the empty room. Outside, distant thunder rolled, not from weather, but from something else. Something stirring in the horizon, waiting for the next test. And though he couldn't feel pain, a different kind of weight settled deep in his chest, one that no dampener could block. The next mission came without warning. Orders flashed across the hollow screens at dawn. Secure objective Serpent. Light resistance expected. Cole almost laughed when he read it. Light resistance was military code for no intel, high risk. The kind of mission where soldiers disappeared, and the brass called it a tactical miscalculation. By midday, his platoon was advancing through a narrow canyon called the Black Maw. Jagged cliffs rose high on both sides, swallowing the light. The deeper they went, the darker it became, until even sound seemed to vanish. Only the faint hum of gear and the click of rifles echoed through the hollow air. This feels wrong, Harlan muttered. Cole scanned the canyon walls. His visor flickered with static. The comms were jammed again. He didn't like that. Stay sharp, he said quietly. They'll hit us when we least expect it. And then he saw it. Up ahead, above the ridge, a plume of smoke. 2 short bursts. 1 long. His own signal, advance left flank. See that? Harlan said, relief creeping into his voice. That's your mark, Sergeant. Looks like Bravo Company's already in position. Cole's gut went cold. The smoke rose in perfect rhythm, too steady, too clean. He'd used that signal for years, and it had never looked that perfect. Smoke didn't move like that in wind. It drifted. It twisted. This was something else. Hold, he barked. The word cracked like a gunshot. The platoon froze. Sir? Harlan asked, confused. That's your... Not mine. Cole's eyes narrowed. It's a copy. And then the sky lit up. A barrage of plasma fire rained down from the cliffs. The air turned into a storm of magenta bolts and molten stone. The first explosion threw half the squad into the dirt. Screams echoed through the canyon, drowned out by the shriek of alien mortars. Cover! Move! Cole shouted. He dove behind a half-buried transport hull as a wave of heat rolled past him. Dust filled his lungs. Through the haze, he saw Mara crawling toward a wounded trooper, dragging him behind a rock. The ambush was perfect. The smoke signal had been bait, and they'd almost swallowed it whole. Far above, aboard the alien flagship Vos KRYN, Overseer Kale watched the ambush unfold through his drones. His body glowed faintly with the heat of excitement. The replication worked. Nirax clicked. Our modified flares mimic human signals exactly. Kale's dark eyes reflected the burning canyon below. Their system depends on a single point of truth. We gave them many. He gestured to a technician. Deploy more false signals. Let them chase ghosts. As the technician obeyed, Kale leaned closer to the screen showing Cole's squad trapped in the chaos. Let him see his own lie turned against him. Let him feel what it means to be the weapon of his own destruction. On the ground, chaos reigned. The canyon had become a furnace of smoke and flame. Cole's hands were steady, his mind cold. He was built for this, the edge between order and collapse. But even so, the weight was growing. He looked over to see 2 of his soldiers pinned behind a burning crawler, their armor melting. He fired suppressive bursts until his weapon overheated, then switched to grenades. Screams. Plasma. Rockfall. The world was collapsing. A plasma bolt ricocheted off a nearby boulder and struck Harlan's arm. The young private cried out, falling to the dirt. Mara was there in seconds, pressing a med seal to the wound, her face streaked with soot and blood. Cole crawled to them. You good? Harlan's voice was weak. I thought you'd see through it, Sergeant. I thought you'd know. Cole froze. The kid's eyes were wide, not in pain, but disappointment. He wanted to say something, but before he could, another blast tore through the ridge above them. The air shook, the world went white. When the smoke cleared, half the squad was gone. The silence that followed was worse than the battle. Night fell. The survivors huddled in a crater at the canyon's edge. 2 dead. 4 wounded. Ammunition almost gone. Medical supplies nearly empty. Mara sat beside Cole, her face pale under the red emergency light. This isn't just an ambush, she said. It's a message. They used your signal to bait us. Cole's jaw tightened. They're adapting. They're learning, she corrected. And they're targeting you. He didn't deny it. The overseer wants proof I'm not a myth. He wants to see me bleed. Her gaze hardened. Then maybe it's time we show him what dying looks like. He frowned. What are you saying? I'm saying we turn their trap back on them. She tapped her wrist display. A faint waveform pulsed across it. They're scanning your vitals right now. They want data. Let's give them what they want, a flatline. Realization dawned. You want to fake my death? She nodded. If the legend dies, the hunter steps out of hiding. He looked down at the dirt, at his shaking hands. It's a hell of a gamble. It's our only shot, she said. The canyon was silent but alive, the kind of silence that trembled before chaos. The night was heavy with dust and burnt air. The survivors of Cole's platoon crouched in the shadow of a wrecked transport, their faces hollow, their weapons trembling in tired hands. Cole sat in the center, calm, motionless, staring at the red light blinking on Mara's wrist comp. It pulsed like a heartbeat. The aliens were still scanning him, feeding on his data. They were waiting for him to die. He looked around at what was left of his people. 10 soldiers, bleeding, coughing, too exhausted to even curse anymore. Yet every one of them waited for his word. He drew a slow breath. You all know the stories about me, he said, voice low. About how I can't feel pain. How I keep getting back up. He tapped his chest, where the cracked armor still smoked faintly. That's a lie. The truth is, I do feel it. I've just been too scared to admit it. They stared at him, wide-eyed, unsure. The aliens think I'm a machine, he continued. They think if they kill me, the legend dies. But they don't understand. I'm not the story. We are. Every one of us. And if they want proof I can fall, he gave a grim smile. We'll give them something worth watching. He nodded to Mara. Do it. Mara took a small, flat device from her medkit, a biosignal disruptor. She modified it with trembling hands, adjusting the frequency until the scanner on her wrist showed a single jagged waveform. When I trigger this, she said quietly, it'll overload your neural dampener. You'll feel everything. Every wound. Every break. But to their scanners, it'll look like you've gone into cardiac arrest. Cole met her gaze. Pain's just a reminder I'm still here. She hesitated for a moment, then reached into his pouch and pulled out the battered brass igniter he always carried. The edges were scorched black from 100 battles. He had used it to light every smoke, every signal. Keep this for me, he said. For the first time, she didn't argue. She just nodded and whispered, see you on the other side, Sergeant. A few hundred meters above the canyon, the alien observation drones watched the humans move. Their readings came through in real time to the command deck of Vos KRYN. Life signals fading. Nirax reported, eyes narrowing at the monitors. Kale leaned forward, his long frame casting strange shadows across the consoles. Prepare retrieval units. Bring me the body of the anomaly. He wanted to see the myth with his own eyes, the human who defied death. Back in the canyon, Cole climbed out of cover and walked into the open. The others watched him in silence. The moonlight cut through the smoke, painting his armor in shades of ash and silver. He took a deep breath, looked at Mara one last time, and nodded. She pressed the button. The disruptor flared. The world exploded into agony. Every nerve in his body came alive. The pain was blinding, like molten metal in his veins, like fire clawing through his lungs. His chest burned where the plasma had struck him. His leg throbbed where infection had taken root. Every buried injury screamed back to life. He dropped to one knee, gasping. The pain was so pure it almost felt clean. Then Mara triggered the charge. A shaped explosive buried near his position detonated, sending a column of fire and debris skyward. Dust rained down like gray snow. The scanners on Kale's command deck went flat, one clean green line. Nirax clicked. Confirmed. The anomaly's vitals have ceased. Kale exhaled, the heat in his cranial vents cooling. Finally, he murmured, prepare my transport. I want the specimen retrieved intact. Minutes later, the alien recovery team descended into the canyon. 6 of them, scientists, not soldiers, their armor gleaming under the twin moons. They approached the crater cautiously, weapons low. Behind them, The Overseer's command skimmer hovered like a dark god above the cliffs, its engines humming. Kale stood within the transparent hull, watching as the smoke cleared to reveal the crater below. "Bring me his remains," he ordered. The team moved in. They found a burned figure half buried in the dust, unmoving. One of them crouched, scanning. No pulse. No heat. The alien leaned closer, extending a mechanical arm to lift the body. That was when the ground erupted. A thunderclap split the night as every hidden weapon in the canyon came alive. Heavy machine guns roared from the shadows. Rockets streaked into the sky. The first explosion tore through the alien recovery team before they could even scream. The second hit Kale's skimmer dead on. The Overseer's body slammed against the hull as the entire ship bloomed into fire. Cole's platoon rose from the dust like ghosts, weapons blazing, their faces streaked with dirt and fury. The trap had been reversed. Mara sprinted toward the crater, heart hammering. She slid beside Cole's body, pulling out a stim injector and slamming it into his neck. "Come on," she whispered. "Come back." For a moment, nothing happened. Then his hand twitched. His chest rose. He gasped, a ragged, animal sound. The pain hit again, raw and endless, but this time, he welcomed it. Hours later, the battlefield was quiet again. Alien wreckage smoldered across the ridge. The myth of Iron Lung Cole had become something new, not a story about a man who couldn't feel pain, but one who faced it and refused to stop. In the aftermath, he sat beside the burning ruins, hands trembling, every nerve screaming. Mara knelt beside him, pressing a clean bandage to his shoulder. "You did it," she said softly. "You killed their god." He shook his head. "No. We reminded them what humans are." "What's that?" He looked up at the rising sun. "Stubborn." Months later, Cole stood at the academy above Saturn's moon Titan, leaning on a cane. His leg never fully healed. His hands still trembled. But his voice was steady as he spoke to a hall full of new recruits. "Command will tell you courage means not feeling fear," he said, scanning their faces. "That's wrong. Courage is feeling everything. The pain, the loss, the fear, and still standing up." He smiled faintly. "The only story that matters is the one where you don't quit." From the back of the room, Mara watched quietly, the old brass igniter resting in her palm. Its flame had long since burned out, but its light lived on in every soldier who refused to fall.